Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPautos.com, your libertarian car guy. I'm going to do a very politically incorrect monologue here about something that riffs off of an item that I caught in the news about how the Russian government is going to devote a considerable sum of money to the restoration, rehabilitation, upkeep of the Tomb of Lenin in Red Square. Now, for those who don't know, the Tomb of Lenin houses the pickled corpse of the founder of the Soviet state, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, who liked to call himself Lenin. Lenin was a mass murderer. He was a horrible human being. And I find it fascinating that it goes without much comment that there is a monument, not just a monument, but an official government-supported monument to this mass murderer right there in Red Square in Moscow. And I juxtapose that in an article that I have up on the site with the absolute dearth of any such thing memorializing the life of that Austrian postcard painter whose name I won't mention. And I'm not apologizing in any way for the Austrian postcard painter who was also a mass murderer. I'm simply pointing out a really interesting incongruity. They have effaced every sign of the man's existence in Germany. In fact, to the extent that in Germany, you can't even, if you have, let's say, a remote-controlled airplane, you know, those things that some people have for hobbies, and you want to fly that thing around. Let's say that you have a model Focke-Wulf 190, let's say, or a Messerschmitt 109. You can't have it painted correctly in the correct livery of the World War II era. In other words, you can't display the symbol of National Socialist Germany on the vertical stabilizer of a model airplane, let alone, you know, have, let's say, an Adolf Hitler Platz, an Adolf Hitler Street or Plaza or some such in Germany, or a bust of him or a statue of him. Did you know that in Moscow there is still a statue erected to the memory of Felix Dzerzhinsky, who was the head of the secret police in the early Soviet era, and who, again, was also a sadistic mass murderer, very much like Heinrich Himmler, who was the head of the German secret police. And of course, we're not allowed to have, or the Germans are not allowed to have, monuments to him. Not that there should be. Again, I'm being very clear here. I am in no way endorsing, apologizing for, or saying anything nice whatsoever about National Socialist Germany, which was an authoritarian state that committed mass murder. Same thing, though, as regards the Soviet Union, only even more so. Same thing as regards Communist China. Same thing as regards Communist Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge. And yet, for some reason, the people who are responsible for that and the governments that are responsible for that are not nearly as anathematized. And you're still allowed to display the symbols of those regimes, aren't you? Heck, the Japanese still have an emperor. Now, granted, he's a figurehead, but nonetheless, the Japanese are permitted to have an emperor. Can you imagine having, say, a figurehead Führer in National Socialist Germany? Or modern-day Germany, for that matter? The whole thing, it's interesting because I think it points out that it's not so much the mass murder, it's not so much the authoritarianism that's objectionable, because if it were, there would be a consistent standard. There is no memorial in Washington, D.C. to the victims of Soviet communism or any other form of communism. Why is that? Isn't that an interesting thing? Yet there is a memorial to the victims of National Socialist Germany. You ask any sixth grader whether they know what a Nazi is, and they'll give you some kind of an answer. Ask any sixth grader who's been in government schools if they know what a Khmer Rouge is. I doubt you'll get an answer from 9 out of 10 of them, and that's probably being a little bit generous. Anyway, just thought it was interesting and wanted to call your attention to the fact. If you're interested in more, the article's up on EPautos.com, and that will also enable you to leave comments on the site. I'm very curious what people have to say about this. So, you know, if you're interested in saying something, please drop by the site and leave a comment. And by the way, speaking of that, I don't charge people to post on the site. You don't have to pay for the privilege and be part of some special kind of a caste. And I also don't suppress the reach of anybody like Elon Musk does if you don't pay him for reach. So that's all I've got for now. More up at EPautos.com. I hope you'll swing by, and we'll have more for you again soon.